Hello and welcome back, adventurers. This is Captain TTRPG, and today we're talking about Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Take my love, take my land, take me where I cannot stand. Welcome back. Today we will be crafting a character, and in case you didn't read the title for this video or didn't pick up on my attempt at singing there, we are jumping into the verse and building Malcolm Reynolds. For those of you who aren't familiar with the television show Firefly or the film Serenity, Malcolm Reynolds is the captain of Serenity, a Firefly-class transport spaceship. For all intents and purposes, he's kind of a space cowboy, if you will, and a criminal who previously had been a sergeant, so, heart of gold, his own ethics kind of like that. I will discuss the choices I made for playing him in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, but you could take him many different ways depending on what you find to be the most important attributes of his character to highlight. With that in mind, let's jump into this build. So we are going to make Malcolm Reynolds here, and even though there's a lot of choices, and I do think everybody should experiment, we are ultimately going to go ahead and choose human, because of course he is in fact human, but I think there's a lot of places to have fun. With the background, barkeep doesn't really fit. Now in this case, there are a lot of different choices that I think you could go with. Looking back in his military background, you could go with something as kind of straightforward as warrior. There are a few others here that are militaristically leaning, and I think that could be a really great choice. And then there's the ones that are more tied to what his current profession is, and that's where we're going to look for here. Outlaw is certainly a great option, so I think that there isn't just one answer for this, but we're not actually going to go with outlaw in our case. Hounded thief, well, he is a thief, and there are people after him. I think this is kind of the second best choice. I personally, for this video and for my mind, am going to go with criminal, a lot because of the experienced smuggler skill feat and just the feel of it. He is a general criminal, even if he is one with a good heart. All right, save it however you like. We are not a fighter. I think you could run this as a fighter, but I like what we get with gunslinger. I think it's more fitting for what he does. It leans into dexterity and, importantly, charisma. And we are going to want both of those, particularly charisma, honestly. So once we've chosen gunslinger, we're going to go ahead and choose our gunslinger's way first because it's critical to our design. And looking at the options, the pistolero just sticks out. So we're going to go ahead and grab that. Generally speaking, he uses a pistol as his only weapon anyway, and there are some nice bonuses that go along with it. So we look at some of these initial abilities we get. 10 paces is nice. When initiative starts, we get a little bonus to our initiative, and we get to move 10 feet, which is great. And with the Reconter's reload, it's also a huge benefit to us here. We like to use deception, and we like to use diplomacy, so using deception as part of an action to reload is a huge bonus for us. Diversions are great, and I like to think that they fit him quite well. And this is just a little reminder of what you get for being a gunslinger. All right, so choosing between intimidation and deception, clearly he's more the deception route than he is intimidation. Not to say he's not intimidating ever, but it's more of a deception that he goes for. When we look at the ability scores, we really care about two things above everything else: charisma and dexterity. So we're going to really boost those up. Outside of that, I think there's arguments to be made, but being a protagonist in a series, he's got great constitution, he can take beatings, and I think he's smarter than people give him credit for. As far as skills go, we already get deception. That's to do with our subclass there. We're going to take diplomacy, because he uses it quite a bit. We get our underworld lore, which is great. We get stealth out the gate. I think it's worth taking survival, given his background in the war, thievery, obviously given his profession, and society. I think he has quite a bit of knowledge about how the world works. let's jump into his heritage. Since we are human, I like to go versatile personally. I think that gives us a lot more options to play with. You could definitely do skilled here. I think that's also a great choice. When we're in our feats, keep in mind that in Path Builder, it'll show you all feats. It's saying general, so we have to go over to general feats. Lots of great choices. Fleet just to move faster, incredible initiative to start off quicker, die hard. All of these things in mind, I'm just going to take toughness. Again, he can take a beating and keep on going. I think that's fits his character well. On the ancestry side, there's a lot in here, and I do recommend you go through it. For us, I'm just going to go ahead and jump into natural ambition, and that's because we want more feats for the class. Interesting level 1 feats. Some fit better than others. I think there's argument to be made for a lot of them, except for crossbow crackshot, of course. But I'm going to go with hit the dirt. I think it makes sense with this character, dodging the shots, diving to the ground. And then when we look at our other class feat that we're going to take, again, some good options, but let's say cover fire because he does like to help out the other members on his team. And they're all using guns too, for the most part. So we've got level 1 figured out. As I said in the intro, we're going to build to level 10. Let's go ahead and apply our free archetype because all my builds will have free archetype. All right, so jumping down to level 2. Now that we've got a good base, we're going to keep building on those things we've already started with. Even though we get to draw a weapon with initiative, I'm going to go ahead and take quick draw. This is really useful if for some reason we're disarmed, but also if we don't want to have gun as initiative is rolled. If for some reason we want to start off trying to calm things down, I do think quick draw over the others is the best choice. For our free archetype, there's a lot of ways to lean here. We could look at things like rogue, for instance, being a great one. There are a lot of things that kind of lean into the more criminal side, but I actually think we want to lead into his team leadership. So I'm going to go with the martial dedication. This also fits well with his charisma. And again, not intimidation, because he's not yelling at them, trying to scare them into doing things. He just convinces them to do so. All right, and skill feats, we're going to mostly stick with charisma-based skill feats, and Bonmot just feels right for him. Slinging insults, messing with your enemies, feels like a good fit. So we're going to go that direction. Okay, moving down to level 3 here. Not too hard of a call. Diplomacy is already boosted thanks to our free archetype, so we're going to boost up deception as well. Deception matters, again, for our reload, so we do want to keep that in mind, functionally, not just for Malcolm Reynolds himself. General feat, again, you have to go up and click general feats, otherwise you're going to look at skill feats and general feats, and that's something that I believe you can turn off in options, but I haven't done so. Untrained improvisation feels right, because he seems to be able to pull things off in the moment. I won't normally look at the features that the class gets at these different levels, but Stubborn's noteworthy because, well, it's Malcolm Reynolds, and Stubborn is kind of his thing. So as we jump back into class feats here, again, some interesting choices. Some of them kind of break the fantasy, I think. So I'm going to go with risky reload. Just quickly reload and take another shot. He is a risk taker after all. And then these are all feats in the martial set that help out your allies, but we're going to start off with the inspiring stance, so we can really give a boost to our allies when they believe in us most. All right, and our skill feat at 4th level, again, will normally be sticking with our charisma-based skills here, and I think Glad Hand is a great way to put that. He does a lot in social situations, so let's make sure to give him the ability to do so. All right, jump down to level 5. Next skill to boost, since we can't move anything to master quite yet. I'd say you've got some good options here. I'm going to go with thievery. Again, profession just fits, but I think stealth or society could easily go there as well. We want to boost dex and charisma. Again, just got to keep those at their highest possible. And then I think you could play around with the other ones. I'm going to give him constitution and wisdom. When we look at our ancestry feat, again, being human means there's a lot of options. There's a little bit more I want to get out of general training. So I think going to go with that. But haughty obstinacy is actually, that's a really fun choice. I think there's a lot of options here that you could take that, again, fit him thematically because there's so much with him being a complex character. The reason I wanted to get a general feat, though, is it's really important to be able to move around. He often has to move quite quickly in the middle of battle. Looking at this, though, I'm suddenly kind of intrigued to take Ride because he is on horseback a fair amount, and we do want to keep that cowboy theme going. So let's go with Ride. When we jump down to our class feats again, some of them make more sense than others, especially at level 6. But I do think that the challenge is particularly fun. It allows us to kind of call somebody out mid-battle, and that's just something very unique, especially to being a pistolero. I think we should jump on that chance. Back to the free archetype here. Once again, not a ton of options, I think, that make a lot of sense unless you're going intimidation, which we aren't. So we want to boost our allies, and just helping them steel themselves against their enemies is something that we see him do and is critical to his leadership style. And then pickpocket, because, well, we remember him picking pockets. Let's make sure he can do that well. All right, boosting a skill. Now we can go to master. Now, choosing between diplomacy and deception, I'd say you can go either way. I actually go diplomacy. When you're looking at your abilities, you probably go deception as in a wiser way, but I like diplomacy here. So, our general feat this time, again, we've looked at a lot of these. I'm actually going to go for incredible initiative. I want him to get a shot in before others can. Just feels good. You know, he wants to shoot first. He's not waiting for others to take a shot at him. And let's look at, there's a lot of good, interesting level 8 feats here, actually. Some that are fun that don't really work for him, like Smoke Curtain. Leap and Fire, though, that's got a lot of fun to it, where you can actually, while you dive to the ground, take a shot. And I think that's very cool. Grit and Tenacity is a very strong choice, though, and it helps you when you're trying to deal with those Fortitude or Will saves to make sure that you're not taken over, especially. I think that's really important. He does have a strong will. All right, and when we look at our free archetype again, back-to-back is very fun. It's making sure that you're not being flanked when you're with your teammates, and they're often fighting together, especially him with Zoe. So let's go get back-to-back, and jumping back into our charisma again. Evangelize sounds fun, but he's definitely not religious, so let's go with Shameless Request. If there's a word that fits him, or 2 words I should say, Shameless Request pretty much does it. All right, almost done here. Moving on to level 9. So this was an easy call for me, boosting that deception up. We look at our ancestry. There actually is something at level 9 that's worth taking a look at for human that's not taking general feats or something at level 1. In this case, I think group aid, again, him being a leader, wanting to help his allies. Group aid is a really valuable feat to have, especially when they're trying to do these skill actions together as a party. We already at level 9 have our advanced deed as well. Not going to open that up, but it is there. Let's boost our stats for level 10. And yeah, let's go ahead and give some strength here too. It's not that he's weak. He's got some strength. All right. Jumping into our archetype before we do our class this time. Looking at all of the options. Let's make sure nobody else gets taken over or delayed by our enemies because of mental effects. On the class side of things, at level 10, there are honestly some great choices, but I'm going to go with Called Shot. So Called Shot is choosing a spot on your enemy and trying to hit that specifically to cause an effect you want. This is something we absolutely see, whether you're shooting somebody in the leg or the arm. It has an effect that is lasting as well. So I think that it's a great choice. It is 2 actions, but it fits the theme. It's very strong, and I think there's a lot of uses of it that he can have in this Western style. Skill feat, not going to say it anymore, going straight to double speak. This allows his allies to understand what he's saying and others not to know, so you got to be in the crew if you really want to know everything he's telling you. It's how they keep secrets. Very much fits for him running his own crew. And that puts us at all of our build together. But we also still have to give him his equipment and his name. All right, so we built here Malcolm Reynolds. As I write it, I realize I don't know how to spell Malcolm. There's an L before that M. Pretty sure about that. But I made the mistake, so you know what? We're going to leave it alone, because that's funnier. So, Malcolm Reynolds, kind of. Boost ourselves up to level 10. And let's go ahead and jump in here to our weapons and our defense and all of that. Weapons. Well, to nobody's surprise, we are going to go with guns. In Path Builder, it's easy to filter this stuff down. We're going to go with firearms. We're going to go with one-handed, because we're looking for pistols. And now the list isn't that long. Some of them could make sense, but I think the one that makes the most sense is just a hand cannon. Nice and straightforward. So we'll give a hand cannon. Now I think he would be, even though he's going to only hold one at a time and take a shot with a single pistol, we'll give him a backup just in case he gets disarmed. Don't need to filter down. We know what we're grabbing. So we've got 2 of them. Now with our main hand cannon, we are level 10, so let's go ahead and throw on the runes you would probably have at this point. Potency +2. Just give that there. And the striking, sadly, we're not high enough for greater striking yet, so we just take regular striking. But because we have potency +2, we can add 2 more runes here. We want to make sure we aren't doing things that are too fantastic, trying to keep grounded to the character. So I'm going with fearsome here. If we crit, we frighten them. That makes sense. You'd be very scared after being critically hit by a bullet. The other one, it does lean out. It's rooting, so it talks about roots growing. If you ignore the roots growing, it's just, hey, I shot them, and now they're immobilized on this critical hit, so they're afraid and kind of stuck in place. I think you can think of it in that way, rather than worry about actually roots coming out of the ground, and that works. Let's jump into defenses. Thankfully, we're very high dex build. We can just go ahead and throw on regular clothing, explorer's clothing in this case. There's arguments to be made for what he is actually wearing, and I think there's a lot of options, whether you want to put leather or something. It's definitely something light that he's got on. But in this case, I think we can just go with explorer's clothing because it's not going to matter in the calculation given his high dexterity. Once again, we're level 10. Let's throw in the appropriate runes. Potency, this time only +1 because it's armor. And we have to get our resiliency on here, just basic. We get to have 1 other rune because we have just the single potency. There's some interesting ones in here, and I think you could make an argument for a lot of them. In our case, I'm just going to go ahead and stick with something pretty low level, staunching, only because he never seems to bleed out. So let's just say it's because his armor. Why not? And there we go. This is our build. We've got pretty good hit points, solid AC, a nice boost to perception with that +2 to initiative on top of our perception, which we're master in, even without a high wisdom. Amazing deception and diplomacy, which will really help us play the character well, and even good thievery. All right, well, thank you, everybody, and I hope you enjoyed this Malcolm Reynolds build. So there you go. One way to build Captain Malcolm Reynolds for Pathfinder2e. If you have thoughts about how you would build his character sheet, please share those in the comments. I promise you, my version is far from perfect. This has been Captain TTRPG, and remember, you can't take the sky from me.